to the Retirement with and On Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Lawson, and this show is all about helping you not just reach retirement, but truly thrive in it. You've put in the work, now let's make sure you can enjoy every moment to the fullest. Today's episode is all about Social Security and is Social Security going anywhere? One of the concerns that I hear expressed most often from soon-to-be retirees or retirees is, I'm worried about Social Security not being around. I'm going to take it as soon as I'm eligible because I've paid into it. That's my money. I want it before it goes away. So today's episode is designed to kind of unpack that concern, share some recent reports that have found how critical Social Security is for the typical American's retirement, and then share insights from a recent memo released by Howard Marks that talks about a couple levers we can pull for helping the overall health of the Social Security Trust. So without further ado, in a 2020 press release from the National Institute of Retirement Security, a report found that almost half of older Americans, 40.2%, only receive income from Social Security in retirement. Said another way, almost half of older Americans have Social Security as their only income source in retirement. As a result of that, in my professional opinion, Social Security is not going anywhere. If any politician tried to do away with what almost half of Americans rely on for retirement income, I imagine their time in office would be very short-lived and there would be massive upheaval from the American people. So because of this, I don't think Social Security is going anywhere. However, just like with most things over time, I can see Social Security changing. In a recent memo released from Howard Marks, who's the co-founder and co-chairman of Oaktree Capital Management, which, sidebar, if you're not following Howard Marks and you're interested in insightful commentary on the state of the market, trends in the market, I would recommend the memos that are released on an occasional basis on his website. If you just Google Howard Marks, his website will come up. And also the books that he's released are very helpful in understanding kind of market cycles and how they tend to rhyme over time. But in this recent memo, he eloquently summarizes the current state of Social Security. And I quote, "If there's one thing both parties agree on, it's hands-off Social Security. Retirees, present and future, want their monthly payments and they want the rules left as they are. The leaders of both parties have agreed to this. It's just that it can't work. Social Security is a contributory program analogous to insurance, and it works through a trust fund. Workers pay in via taxes, and retirees get checks. But the number of retirees drawing benefits has been growing relative to the number of active workers paying in. And if nothing is changed, the fund is sure to become insolvent through an inexorable mathematical process. There are many levers that can be pulled to restore Social Security to health, but nobody wants to pull them, since doing so would displease someone that is displease some voters." And then Mr. Marks goes on to kind of lay out each of these levers, and so I'm going to take each of these in stride and kind of expand on them. So the options include raising the Social Security tax rate, currently 6.2% for employees and 6.2% for employers. So one thing that can be done to restore the health of the Social Security Trust is to raise the amount of Social Security tax being paid on our wages. Right now it's 6.2% for employees and 6.2% for employers. We could raise that number to say 7 or 8, and that alone would make a significant difference on the state of the Social Security Trust. Another lever that could be pulled, and this one out of all of them, could get some potential bipartisan support, raising the ceiling on the earnings on which tax is paid. So for 2025, we pay Social Security tax on the first $176,100 that we earn. So for those making $250,000, $500,000, $1 million or more, they're only paying Social Security taxes on the first $176,100 that they earned. So by raising the income threshold on which we paid Social Security taxes, that too could make a profound difference on the state of the Social Security trust. Another lever would be reducing benefits. I think of all the potential levers that could be pulled, this is probably the least popular. But rather than, say, being entitled to $4,000 a month, maybe that's only $3,000 or $2,000. Again, that's probably one that would have a very hard time getting bipartisan support. Another lever that could be considered is limiting the cost of living adjustments. So during COVID and the inflation that kind of picked up in its aftermath, many retirees who are collecting Social Security did see cost of living adjustments on their Social Security. They saw their monthly income increase to help keep up with the rising cost of living. So one thing that could be done to potentially, again, restore or replenish the state of the Social Security trust is to limit those cost of living adjustments to a smaller amount or, do away with them altogether. 3 additional options that could be considered is raising the retirement age. So right now, for people born in 1960 or later, their full retirement age for Social Security purposes is age 67. Who's to say that at some point, for those born in 1970 or later, or 1980 or later, they don't make that age 68 or 69? So the retirement age, especially as more people live longer, could potentially be increased. The final 2 levers that could be pulled, limiting the number of years for which retirees can collect. So if someone started Social Security when they were first eligible at age 62 and now they're 102, they've been receiving Social Security for 40 years, potentially much longer than they paid into the Social Security trust. So, one thing that could be considered is limiting the number of years for which a retiree can collect. Let's say it's 20 years or 30 years. So you could still start it early, but if you're still around 20 or 30 years later, you're no longer entitled to it. That could be a potential consideration. And then lastly, means testing would be recipients. So what this means is, for folks who are independently wealthy that may not, really need Social Security and it doesn't make a big difference in their lifestyle, they could, potentially say that they're not entitled to Social Security, or maybe even, and this is just pure speculation, but let's just say they said, if you forego your Social Security, we're going to give you a tax benefit or a tax deduction for that. That could potentially have some merit and be something, again, just to help restore the overall state of the Social Security trust that is responsible for the paying out the monthly benefits. Right now, as Howard Marks, noted, none of these is considered acceptable. Everyone just wants their checks as promised. However, as time goes on and more people are retired and enjoying Social Security, and potentially less people are paying in due to a decline in population or just having less workers and more retirees, these levers could potentially be considered as a way to make sure that the almost half of Americans that are solely responsible, or whose income is, almost solely driven by Social Security, that they'll still receive their monthly paycheck and be entitled to benefits during retirement. That's it for today's episode. That was, again, hopefully helpful in alleviating some concern that Social Security is probably not going anywhere, albeit there could be some changes, and those are some potential changes that could be considered. Until next time, stay well, and I'll look forward to being with you again soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Retirement with and On Purpose podcast. I hope you're walking away with new ideas and a fresh perspective on how to make the most of your retirement journey. And remember, retirement isn't the end. It's your time to live with purpose. Until next time, I'm Trevor Lawson. Here's to a fulfilling and thriving retirement.